and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to join with Vahan with his movie, The K-Town Killer. Let's take a look at the clip.
얘 좀 봐. 엄마가 딸한테 그런 것도 못 물어봐?
Why are you so pressed about this?
Pressed?
왜 이렇게 열받아하냐고.
Pressed.
I have to leave. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand? I have to be somewhere and I can't leave until your daughter moves her car. So will you please go tell her to move to her car?
Okay, I'm gonna go get her, okay?
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of our New Filmmakers LA family. And thank you for the K-Town Killer. I've got so many questions. Did you have a good time last night? Was it good?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. This is always a very incredible experience for filmmakers to have people actually like celebrate you and promote your work, because you don't get a ton of that early on in your career. So we're really appreciative of it.
Well, we can't do it without you, Vahan. So thank you to you and your team for bringing your film to us, honestly. This film's brilliant. Like, I just loved it. Living in K-Town, I extra love for it as well, as I know you do. For those that haven't seen it though, tell us a brief synopsis.
So it's about a Korean professional fighter who is hiding her career from her mom, and her mom has an abusive landlord, and she protects her mom from her landlord, and that becomes her way of showing her mom who she is.
And she's amazing. Like she's amazing. She's the K-Town Killer. But anyways, I think this story was so cool. I think there's the comedy elements, but also to kind of the seriousness of parking in Los Angeles. For you personally, where did the inspiration come for you?
So the story about the girl hiding her career as a fighter from her mom started because I used to train kickboxing and Muay Thai, and my mom would ask me, like, you're not actually getting hit in the head at the gym, right? You're just sort of like getting exercise. And I'd be like, no, of course not. And I was getting hit in the head a lot. So I told that to one of my coaches, and he said I was fighting in stadiums in a time where like my mom didn't even know that I was training at all. And he said no mother wants to watch their child get hit in the head. And that sort of became the genesis of this story. And you know, from there it sort of expanded. It's based on like multiple different fighters that I've known throughout my life. Yeah, that's how it started.
I love it because I love that you mixed. I love that parking features in a lot of your films. I think that's very funny, and I think in LA we can all relate to that. You know, and of course we know, and actually particularly in K-Town, parking is not easy at all. On top of all of that, but then you just encompassed it with this like fantastic mother and daughter. She's an amazing fighter, and then with this abusive landlord, which is also not uncommon in Los Angeles either. So how did you kind of go about combining all these stories, and how did you bring your cast together?
Yeah, so I started with the story about a fighter protecting their parent, and then I also met my co-director and co-writer Halen Kwan, who I met her in graduate school, and together she's from Korea, and together we sort of like fleshed out this story. Casting was interesting. You know, I have used casting services like the websites, the LA Casting and Breakdown and Backstage and all that, and those were all great. But for this one, we got off of those websites to a large degree. We use a lot of social media. We found like Facebook groups for Asian actors, Asian creatives, and we posted like JPEG casting notices like made in Photoshop on there, and we got like a lot more attention from people that way. And like I noticed that like the quality of actors that we got just through, you know, social media and just networking was very high. For the mother in particular, that was a huge challenge because I think when you get very specific with ethnicity and age, it becomes very challenging to find cast. I think for the landlord, who's like, you know, not he's like the third character in the film, but we just had like, you know, white guy, middle-aged. I think we had 600 people apply for that. And for the mom, I think we had like 10. And of those 10, only one was Korean, even though we put that in the requirements, We ended up like buying ad space on a Korean radio station, like FM radio in LA, looking for cast. But at the end of the day, the one we ended up casting was the one who applied through the casting websites, which is Joy Sung Kim, who lives out near Milwaukee. So she's from Korea, lives in Milwaukee, and she flies out to LA for roles. So.
Oh wow! Well, she was fantastic. Anyway, she found the right person. I honestly, like, you know, I love this unveiling of this like secret career that sort of like comes through, and she leads the line very well in this film. It's really nice to see her kind of character involved as well. And you know, honestly, there's some really douchebags in LA, so it's nice to kind of like uncover this annoying landlord that just causes trouble for her and her mum for no reason. I think sometimes, like, I feel like sometimes scared coming outside because I'm like, sometimes you just get these people out here and you're like, why are you being this obnoxious? You know what I mean? Like, for no reason. So I thought that whole dynamic was like, sadly, a little bit of reality at times in certain places. Yeah. But in this case, like, you know, she's got a secret career, she's hiding from her mom, and then this like unleash is happening. You find out she's a very highly skilled fighter. How did you go about, like, you know, as you know, there's a lot of movement, you've got a background, you know, in martial arts, there's a lot of different things going on. How did you go about choreographing, bringing that whole element together? And not just the choreographing, how do you work with your like DP to kind of like get those shots and effects? Because I always find that's fascinating too.
So both me and my DP, Donald Nam, who I've known for like over 20 years, we're huge fight fans. And actually I used to work, my work is I work with fight promotions, and so I do like editing, promos, documentaries on fighters. But as a result, it's very hard for me to watch fight scenes in movies because I see people fight constantly in my life, so it all looks very fake to me. Yeah. So, you know, for this film, it was a big deal that like we constructed a fight scene that felt very real, especially because we didn't really want this film to feel like an action film. We wanted it to feel more like a drama that had a fight scene in it. So that like I said, that gets very dangerous. Yeah. I mean, the reason why fight scenes look the way they do is because they're very choreographed and it's very safe. The more real you want something to look like, the less safe it's going to be. So that really, especially because like Kya-eun Kim, our lead actress for Grace in the K-Town Killer, was not a fighter. She had like no martial art. Yeah, we taught her. We gave her like weeks of Muay Thai training leading up to shooting, and she picked it up.
She's good.
Cool. But, you know, so it was very important to us that we be very careful, because when you have someone who's not a trained stunt actor, you have to be extra safe. So it just came down to like meeting for weeks and weeks and weeks with my stunt coordinator and stunt actors, and just carefully planning out like we had 2 stunt actors, we did the scene with them, and then once we got the scene down, we brought in the real actors, and then just taught them the moves, and it was, yeah, it all came out pretty good.
That's amazing. Well, I want to commend you for your team there, because this fight felt so real. I was like, like every 5 seconds, I was like, oh my goodness, is it hurting? Is people getting hurt here? It didn't feel like, because I know what you're saying when it felt like, it felt choreographed. So that goes down to a lot of your background and your skill that you and your team have. What was the biggest challenge making it?
It was, I mean, there was a lot of challenges. Obviously, like, just that fight scene was hard to pull off. But, yeah, we had someone test positive for COVID on the second day. It's a student film, so we did 2 weekends. Mm-hmm. Second day, my producer pulls me out and says, someone who was on set the first day just tested positive. So we shut down halfway through the second day, canceled the third day. Wasn't even sure we were going to do the second weekend until like Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And then that process of like, okay, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Like, because as a filmmaker, when you get that call that like the shoot's off, there's a part of you that kind of relaxes. Yeah. And there's also a part of you it's fighting inside, like, no, I need to do this. 100%. But so we didn't know until Tuesday. We shot as much as we could, had to do a pickup like months later, and we did the pickup in Omicron when like 1 in 5 COVID tests were coming back positive. So I was just kind of like, okay, like, let's just see what happens. I guess maybe we'll shoot this. But I mean, that's just one thing any filmmaker will tell you, is that for whatever reason, when you set out to make a film, things just go wrong. Yeah. And sure enough, that happened on this one. But that's why it's such an important skill as a filmmaker, is to just power through things and just be committed to finishing the project.
I mean, your film obviously is very visually fun to watch. I also thought the production design of your film was also really, really good as well. What was it like? I mean, we loved having it on the big screen, but it's also really nice for your film particularly to kind of hear the reactions from the audience. What was that experience like for you?
It's been an interesting experience in the festival. You really, because we've been to a couple festivals now, and I go to every single one in person, and you really start to get a feeling of like what's working and what's not. Like, just based on like being in the room with the audience. So that's been amazing because just as a filmmaker, I feel like you evolve a lot because you get a lot more in tune with what works. Like when that fight scene happens, I can look around and I can see people tense up like in the fight scene, and that's always a good sign. Another thing is that the film is funnier than I intended and expected, because because I edited the film, so a lot of the beats are sort of lost on me by the time I'm watching it. But yeah, we put some moments in there that were supposed to be funny that would then like pay off later and emotionally. But I realized that like people were laughing a lot more than I expected. And some people have even called the film a comedy. I'm like, wow, really? I didn't know that.
I was going to bring that into conversation because I think, there was definitely like cross-genre experience. There was definitely funny moments. But I also thought your film had a very sort of like, a dramatic feel in the sense of like the story that you were telling and also kind of the depth of like, the things that were happening in the scene, even the microaggressions in there as well was so obvious and clear, and it happens every day in the city. I'm just curious, what did you want your audience to take from your film?
I think it's funny because that sort of changed as we were filming it. At first, I wanted to tell a story about this very complicated person who reacts very explosively to the world around them and isn't perfect, and isn't messy, but is engaging, and you want to watch them. I wanted people to have much more mixed reactions towards the end, at least when I was writing it. But as we shot it, when we went back into editing, I realized that the story was a lot more triumphant than I was expecting. And that's just filmmaking, you sort of, sometimes you pivot towards the story that's working. And what was working was people felt really good when she beat that guy up, So I was like,
it was incredible.
Yeah, so as a filmmaker, you sort of just like lean into that. And I think ultimately, like it was important to us that we tell a story about an Asian person defending their parent, again, because of like all of the footage of Asians getting attacked in 2020, particularly the elderly, really enraged me. So we just wanted like a satisfying feeling of like somebody being like low-key racist to their parent, and then that person just being like, don't talk to my parent that way, and then just, I would encourage people to beat people up, but that's the way she...
Some people, not the same violence, but some people, they get what's coming to them sometimes, But no, it was such a triumphant experience seeing the fight back. I was like, okay, and the audience were loving it as well, which is fantastic. The only sad thing about your film is I wish she was a superhero of K-Town, because that would just be amazing and wonderful. Anyways, what's next for you?
What's next is we have a feature-length version of this film written already. We've got a second draft done. Me and my co-writer and co-director, Halen Kwan. So we're going full steam ahead with that feature. We're looking for producers, fundraisers, distributors right now. I also have a short that I shot back in July that I'm done with post now, so it should be entering the festival circuit right now. It's kind of similar. It's casting the stunt double that we had in this film, Julia Ho, who's a former WWE wrestler. We did a film together. Yeah, pretty excited about that one.
Super exciting. Well, I'm glad you're making the feature version, because I wasn't done with that story yet. So that's always super good. But Vahan, well done to you and your team. Thank you so much for bringing this film to us, and congratulations and welcome to NewFilmmakers LA.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a blast.